It's showtime. Miss Sandi Durr, welcome to the show. Thank you
Hello,
for,
hello.
and I think we've got some. Of course, I think it's interesting information. I hope somebody else does. It'd be interesting to see what kind of comments we get tonight. But I am thrilled to talk about investment or the potential for investment properties. And since we got a basketball game, thrilled to talk about investment properties. That's funny. And since we've got that was recording behind me. I got a basketball game to go to after this, so let's rock.
Let's do it.
All right. Oh, that's not the right slide. We're gonna move that one, and we'll go back.
Are we going backwards?
Oh, I was reviewing it. That's actually a good thing because I sometimes I don't. All right. I got a new picture for myself. Yes. Investment property. Yes. Arr. Tim the Tool Man. I play. Anyway, so is this the right time to invest in rental property? Well, some people think this is a crazy time. Sandy, what do you think?
If you find the right property, but prices are a little high still. Interest rates are a little high, but if you've got cash to invest, don't want to go into the stock market, it might be a good time to put it into real estate.
There you go. I tend to agree with that. All right, so here's what we're going to cover tonight. First one, if you had $1 million, what would you buy? Second one, we're going to be market analysis, current local condition, timing versus long-term strategy, local market factors, cash flow analysis, risk assessment, professional guidance, and loan options, and much, much more. All right, so this is kind of a interesting question. I want you to sit and think about it. If you're watching this webinar and we're wondering about real estate, if you had $1 million, what would you either buy or invest in? And my thought went to the people that might have won the lottery. I think that when you win the lottery, you think differently than if you worked and finally accumulated $1 million. But that's a whole different deal. Would you buy a fancy new vehicle like that Corvette?
I know you would.
I'm not sure I'd buy a Corvette, but I might buy one of those, something like that. My dream car for sure. So a lot of people that win the lottery go out and buy a new home, which makes a lot of sense. First thing to do. Some people travel and experience, and I point to this guy down in here. It looks a little like he's definitely enjoying himself, and he got him some gold and some bling, and looks like a bunch of cash behind him. Pay off debt. There's a novel idea. Why not?
Oh, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, some people would be very charitable and give it away, and I think that that's a good thing. In business investments, another good idea. I like educational and personal development. Learn more, make yourself better, figure out how to use things smarter. And then family and gifts. Take care of your family. Make sure that they get their part of the. They're going to be asking, so you might as well just give it to them. So anyway, but think about it for a minute. If you just thought about, you just got $1 million. Now, what are you going to do with that money? And I think I'll give you a minute to think, but
we don't have a minute. We have a basketball game to go to.
Right. Okay. So anyway, forget the minute. We've heard stories about the people that win bazillion dollars. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars. And in 3 or 4 years, they're broke because they squandered it, or they probably did all these things in multiple times. And so really, it's a worthy goal to build up $1 million. If you do it that way, you'll be a little more discerning with it, I think. I don't know. I haven't done that yet. But I think I would be. And I think that real estate might be one of the items that you might consider. So let's be smart and talk about real estate. And kind of on the same thing of what Sandi said, we'd want to look at, if we were thinking about this now, particularly now, what are local market conditions? Properties are still appreciating. There's also a shortage of homes. We know that.
Right.
Rates are coming off their highs, even though today wasn't a great day. Well, actually, it was a pretty good day on the rate market, but the Fed kind of announced that they weren't going to be cutting soon anyway. New home buyers are struggling to save money for down payment. I put that on there because that to me indicates that there's going to be a good rental market consistently for a while.
Right.
Texas is one of the top states people are moving to. We know that. Home prices are growing, but still cheaper than in most areas. So even though our home prices are going up, we're still cheaper than a lot of the states around us, particularly in the northern and western areas. Also, big one, cost of living in Texas is below most of the U.S. So that's going to continually attract people. And I think I saw the statistic that we just went over 30 million people in Texas. Now that's probably about 8% of the entire United States. And who knows? I don't. I was going to say something. I'll leave that alone. But anyway, with these things in mind, rental investment property could be a pretty good play. Now, I'm not. They're not all positive, but timing. This is a long-term strategy,
Right. Long
and
term.
real estate should be seen like that, looking into the future. And appreciation and cash flow are key considerations. And this means you need to look beyond this current market because there could be something negative coming up, or there could be things that are even better based on the fact that Texas is in such a prime place now. Now, who knows what happens in Texas? With all the immigration that has happened, and I think I'm not going to get political. I'll be quiet. Let's go. Let's move on. All right. Yeah, smart move. Local market factors. So America's changing population. And in this, it's very hard to read for you, but it says the darker shading indicates fast growth. And so you can see there are about 7 or 8 states that are showing faster than most growth: Florida, Texas, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. And there's the reason for that is one, our weather. Even though it's hotter than Hades in the summer, we do have air conditioning. We're having job growth, population trends in our favor, infrastructure developments. Texas is pretty proactive at highways and stuff. I think Houston might be a little behind. No, I know Houston's a little bit behind, but upcoming projects that could affect property values, there seem to be mostly positive. Sandi, can you think of any that are not positive right now?
I'm just worried about our electric grid, but we seem to have gotten through it with this last freeze. I remember what was a year or two ago, the electric grid here wasn't ready for the cold weather that we got. But
Right.
I think they've been improving that. So that infrastructure is good.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
Too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, from everything I can tell on the surface, and I don't know anything that anybody else knows that's under the surface, but it appears like Texas is a pretty good bet for the future. I've been saying that for a long time. I don't see anything different on that. So because of that, I asked Sandi to read some questions that some of the consumers might be asking, and I think they're good questions. So fire away.
Okay, first one we came up with is, what is my financial situation, and is buying rental property a viable option for me?
There you go. That's a critical one and probably the number one question. And it does take money in about 90% of the cases to buy rental property. Usually at a minimum, 15% down, and usually between 20 and 25 is a good term. So if you can save that kind of money, then it's a good idea. Now, if you don't have a home already, I'd spend your money first on a home that's a primary residence. But the big thing is, the first thing we'd ask is, have you saved enough money to put down on an investment property?
Right.
And I do have a slide deeper into here that shows a handful of ways that you can get money for investment property that might be a kind of a shortcut, if you would. What's another one?
Okay. What are my investment goals, and how does a rental property align with them?
Another good question. A lot of people believe that having an investment property is a path to wealth, but it also is a path to pains in the butt. Tenants that don't always treat your property like you want it to, they don't always pay on time, and there is some negative stuff about investment property, depending on how you do it. And of course, one of the things that we talk about in this session is having somebody as a mentor, if you hadn't done it before, to kind of go alongside of you and kind of guide you. If
Well,
you're
and
doing,
two, looking for long term. If you're looking long term, a lot of people look at the stock market for that. Maybe that's not your gig. Maybe rental property is something that would be more in aligned with what you could do.
and like to do,
Right.
you would just like that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What is the local real estate market like, and is it favorable for rental investments?
I mean, we already went over that, and I think everything except for the fact that home prices are getting more expensive. And when I think of that, I think I mean, Houston's 20 or Kingwood's 28 miles north of downtown Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Houston's a massive size city, and people are still moving out. I mean, there's the Crosbys, the Huffmans, the Clevelands, all these areas that are on the other side of 99, and they are less expensive because they're a little further away. And just like at one point in time, Kingwood was way out in the boondocks, as were the Woodlands. So with time, it'll get better.
East Texas is another big area. I've noticed that all around the Tyler area, Jacksonville, all of those areas are real hot right now. So, and you can get some pretty good prices on properties like that. Out towards past Brenham, another area out there, north of Willis. So there's things to be found still out there.
One thing I could tell you, it's beautiful in
Yeah,
East Texas, piney trees, hills. I mean, it's very rich country,
right.
and you have to just, if you don't want to live too close to the city, which is not a bad thing, could be a good choice.
Right. Okay, next one. How much of a rental property should I consider, such as a single family home, condo, multi-unit building?
I fall along the line of the single family. I think the condos are going to not appreciate like the single families will if you choose correctly. They're if the condo's in and around water, that could be a good choice. But it would be, my first choice would be to go single family, if that's what the question was.
Right. What financing options are available for rental properties?
Post that one. We're going to talk about that.
Okay. What is the potential rental income and expenses associated with the property?
Read that one again. What is the potential
income?
Okay.
And expenses.
I've done a couple slides on those questions. Those are obvious ones, and I figured those out before I looked at the questions. So,
okay. What is the condition of the property, and are there any major repairs or renovations needed? So that's what you definitely need to look at when you're.
Well, yeah, and my cut on that is that you don't really want to look at a perfect property. One of the things that helps the numbers work is if you get the property at a bargain. If you can buy at a bargain, then you're probably going to have to update some stuff, cosmetic stuff. Maybe avoid the things that are the roof and the foundation and those kind of things. But yeah, you're going to need to buy at a bargain. So you might have to buy a property that needs a little TLC.
Yeah, something with good bones, a good flow to it. But yeah, but the big components like the roof, the AC, foundation, things like that, maybe those need to be in pretty good order.
Well, and just another point on that, school districts, neighborhoods are huge. Particularly if you have a good school district, you've got that's a potential winner. For sure.
Well, you just brought up the next question. Is the location desirable for tenants? Close to schools, close to amenities, close to transportation, public transportation.
Yep.
Okay. How will I manage the property and handle tenant-related tasks?
So there are management companies.
Like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can do management companies. If you have a handful of properties, that makes sense. If you're just doing one, you can probably handle it yourself. You might need some coaching on that, but handling one or two properties is not that hard. and it's probably, you probably want to be involved with that.
Well, and you can use your local real estate agent to get it on MLS. I can help you with the screening of your tenants. I can help you write up the lease. And then once you get the tenant in there, then it's just between you, the landlord, and the tenant. But a good real estate agent like myself can help manage getting you a tenant and getting everything together for you.
Bingo. There you go. Good answer.
Okay, that's all we got. What you got next, Mike?
All right, let's see what I got next. All right, cash flow analysis. So I found this form online. This is something, you've got the URL. If you look at it here, calculator.net/rental property calculator.html. Go to that site. This is what you're going to get. It tells you, and I put in an example, $250,000 purchase price, 20% down, 7 1/8 interest rate, 30-year term, $6,000 closing cost. And then after you do that, you're going to have monthly rent is 1%. This is one of the rules, kind of the standards. Rule is 1% of the purchase price. So that's $2,500. Now, obviously, on the rental, you're going to want to check with a realtor to find out what the rents are going for in that area. Okay?
Right.
And we'll talk more about rents in a minute. No other income. Vacancy rate, you got to calculate a vacancy rate, even though you try to avoid them like crazy. And just a side note, vacancies are the biggest expense you could have. So you got to keep that place rented. And the way you do that is you make sure that the rent is reasonable and the property's in good shape.
Right.
You do those two things, you'll be fine. If you choose a management fee, you've got one. Now, as we go down here, recurring operating expenses are property tax, the total insurance, HOA fee, maintenance, and this is just over time, a number, and then other costs. I just added another number there. When you hit this little button, and of course it won't calculate on this slide, but I can do that one, and it brings up some numbers, which are kind of cool. The first one is a big number, and I'm going to take a minute to explain it. This is for the 10 years invested, the IRR, all right, that is internal rate of return. And this is one of the reasons that real estate is such a good investment. 14.51% return on the dollars that you spent. That's a good return. I mean, you can measure this, and there's not many stocks you can buy that you'll get that kind of return on there.
That's
so
right.
Total profit when sold, $115,000. Cash on cash return, 206%. Capitalization rate, I don't really know how that calculates, but 7.75 is not bad. And then real numbers, total rental income, $310,000. Mortgage payment, $161,000. Total expenses. And then the difference is, it's not total net operating income, 222,000. There's some expenses out of that. But over here, it shows you monthly and annually what you're getting. And this is a property that cash flows and appreciates.
Right.
The expenses are the cost of the mortgage, the vacancy. If you have vacancy, you try to avoid that. Management fee, property tax, total insurance, maintenance cost, and other cost. Okay. So those are the kind of things that you figure on there. The annualized total return on each dollar invested for the period invested. Higher IRR is more desirable. So internal rate of return, that's something that you need to pay attention to. I've got some notes here. Let's see if I'm going to have to read them. I put this in there too. This is a amortization schedule that I had crafted for me years ago. And if you just put in the numbers of in this, like kind of piggybacking on that last slide, the 50,000 was the down payment, 200,000 was the loan, 7 1/8 was the interest rate, 30-year fixed, number of payments per year, starting next month, or actually tomorrow, as a matter of fact. The payment would be the $1,347.44, and there would be a total amount of interest of $285.77 over the course of 30 years, right?
Right.
Well, this tells you where you are at, and this little amortization tool will answer a lot of those questions that you might have when you're trying to figure all the cost. So all you got to do on this one is call me. I'll send it to you. It's free. All right. So
good deal.
Okay. Risk assessment. All real estate deals have risk. There's
Yep.
not any that don't. And a lot of times you can't see them. They're there, but maybe you're blind to them. Maybe you just can't. Maybe they're inside the walls or under the foundation or on top of the roof. But you really need to evaluate knowing that there's going to be risk there. And in this case, you'll find some properties that have low risk, and the lower the risk and higher the potential return, those are keepers, and they come around. And it's not like you just go out and you just say, hey, I'm going to buy a property, and you just go buy one. There's a lot of work that goes into that. It's market volatility, change in interest rates, economic turndown, diversifying your investment portfolio helps you mitigate that risk. But this is work, and to do it right. And I mean, sometimes you just get a deal and it just goes, man, that's a great deal. And you
Mhm.
see it a little bit, and if it's a great deal, you jump on it. And that's
Right.
what Sandy and I have done. And sometimes they weren't that great a deal. We will talk about that later, honey. All right. Professional guidance. This is something, particularly if you're new to this, I will tell you that I've bought and sold and rented out and been doing real estate stuff for 35, 40 years. And I still learn something new every time I go to a class or a club or something like that. But an experienced real estate agent is super valuable. A savvy mortgage guy, it can be very helpful too. Longtime real estate investor or mentor.
Right. That's
You
a
can
good
get guys, and there's a list of there's more clubs in Houston than these, but the Houston REIA, Real Estate Investment Associate, the Wealth Club, Rich Club. I belong to the Rich Club. I belong to Lifestyles Unlimited. I got a lot for my money on those
one.
clubs, and they're very reasonable, and they're very open to sharing and helping. And let me tell you, I would take advantage of those. So yeah, it's all about learning what with the trouble, what can happen.
Right.
Negative side of real estate investment. Well, one of them is you've got responsibilities. This is not passive income. People talk about passive income, but it takes work. I mean, you've got to do tenant management work. You got to do property maintenance work, and then there's administrative paperwork. And sometimes a positive deal, it can be very close to a negative deal with just the wrong. You make a misstep somewhere, and I could go into a longer story on that, but I won't. But what you just have to be as discerning as you possibly can.
Right.
All right. General guidelines, some rules. 50% rule. The sum of operating expenses hovers around 50% of the income. Okay. The reason you get that is so that you can figure out if quicker if this is going to be a good deal or not. Okay.
Right.
It says here the other 50% can be used to pay the mortgage payment. This can be used to quickly estimate the cash flow and profit of an investment. So if it's easy math, and that, obviously it has to do with the interest rates and what you're buying the property for, but you can do some quick calculating with those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
1% rule, which I mentioned before, is the gross monthly income should be 1% or more of the property purchase price after repairs. In my previous example, the purchase price was $250, the rent was $2,500, the gross income that year was $30,000, so it was above the 1%, and that would have been a good deal.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Here's a big one: 70% rule. Purchasing and or flipping distressed properties, the purchase price should be equal to or less than 70% of the after repaired value. Now, that's a lot of words, and let me give you an example. Is the guys that do this for a living every day and make offers on properties every day, they usually offer somewhere between 65 and 70% of the asking price. Okay, so that means they get a lot of no's. There are a lot of people that say, I'll pass.
Right.
But every once in a while, they get somebody that goes, man, I need the money, and let's go.
Right.
And they buy properties every month. And so that's an important thing to understand is if you're afraid of people saying no in a situation like that, then you're probably not going to be a real estate investor. Okay.
Never hurts. My thing, it never hurts to ask.
All right. Investment property loan program. So we talked about this before. These are, I'm not sure these are all of them, but these are the ones that I thought of right off the top of my head. On a conventional loan with high level qualifications, 15% to 25% down. And what you'll find is a 15% is going to cost, the interest rate's going to be much higher. 20% is a little less. And then 25% is the sweet spot as far as getting the best rate on that property. Okay. Also makes sense that you put more down, you're getting a lower interest rate. It makes a better chance for you to cash flow on that property because of those things.
Right.
Here's my sleeper here. The kitty condo with 3.5% down. Now, what you can do is you can put a parent or a child in a home and co-buy it with them with a 3.5% down on an FHA loan. And so this is kind of like, this is where the kitty condo comes in. There are a lot of people that use this loan program when their kids go off to college. Their kids have no income. They have to have good credit. They have to be on the loan. They have to be in the property. But you can buy that property for 3.5% down and let them, your child, be the manager of that property for the 2 or 3 roommates that they get to stay in the house and help you pay for that home.
Yeah.
And it's a terrific way to own or to start owning an investment property in a college town
Yep.
or in a
Good
town.
one. Yeah.
Not a lot of people know that. It's a great program.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hard money, high interest rate, short-term financing, very fast. It's good for fix and flip. And we did one of these last, I guess, 6 months ago, something like that. And everything went good until we ran into a couple of hiccups. But it was very interesting, fast way to buy properties. A lot of investors use these. Okay. Again, I encourage you to have some backup cash for these. Just helps. DSCR. A lot of people talk about what a DSCR is. Debt service coverage ratio. What this basically says is the rental income of a property will cover the annual debt of a property. So the interest rate on these loans is higher, but you don't have to qualify as aggressively for them. It's a non-QM loan, but they are popular. So all you got to do is get a property that will rent for an amount, and usually they use an appraiser's, or you can either use a lease that you have or an appraiser to determine what the going rent is for the area. And this is a loan that you can do very easily. Can you think of any I may have missed? Those are the ones that just came to mind. I didn't really study this too hard.
No, I think that covers quite a bit of it, Mike.
I think it's got, the ones I've done mostly are this top one.
Right.
Every once in a while we'll get the kitty condo and the hard money. But
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right. So real estate options. Excuse me. Residential property, single family duplexes, or residential property, single family duplexes, multifamily. Okay. Right. Commercial properties. Now, this one's probably kind of sensitive right now, just because the commercial real estate market is in the throes of trauma. You could buy some properties cheap, but commercial properties, offices, retail space, and warehouses. There's some people that buy and hold. That's where you would hold the property and rent it long term. Buy, fix, and flip. So fix and flip was something we used to do a lot back in the early 2000s. Buy and short-term rental. And Sandi and I are doing a property. We bought a lake property that we do a short-term rental with, and we dig it. I mean, it's not always super fun, but it's fun a lot of times. Real estate investment trust. This is where people come together and invest. It's actually like a part of the stock market where you invest in a fund that buys and sells real estate. There are 2 other ones: a real estate syndication, where people come together, put their money together. This is outside the stock market. They just joined kind of like a partnership. And then the real estate crowdfunding is also. And I really, these properties are gems, aren't they? The 2 on the top are kind of beat up and probably not a good idea to invest in these. And the one on the bottom is probably not a very good one to buy either, because it looks too expensive. the point is that you don't want to go too low and you don't want to go too high. You want to go to where the masses are and the people that can afford it. And I hope this isn't derogatory to anybody, but I like homes that are within the realm of a single wage earner. That way, if he's married and has a wife that's taking care of the kids and he can afford that house, I think that that's a sweet spot as far as the price of a house that you'd want to have and that they could afford a reasonable rent. That would be my suggestion. All right, what you should do right now. Well, if you're really interested, you should educate yourself. You should read, you should watch, you should attend all the functions about real estate. You want to practice figuring out the math. I mean, that little tool, that calculator we use can go a long way towards that. You also want to look at if you get a realtor, make sure that they will tell you what the taxes are for each of the properties. A lot of times that's overlooked. I don't think they'd even get that information on the consumer website of HAR. They may. Start looking for deals online. Just, in your mind, say, okay, there's a house. What can I buy that for? What can I rent it for? And just look at that. Next thing, when you're ready, you get pre-approved to see what you really will qualify for.
Right.
And right after that, you find yourself a seasoned agent that understands real estate investing. And I'm a good one right there. And then you start analyzing deals. And once you start analyzing deals, you're going to find some that don't work and some that do work. And when they start working, you start making offers. And I think that that's the way it should go. So it's part of education. So that is what I put together for this. We finished in 31 minutes and 52 seconds. And here's what we covered. If you had $1 million, what would you buy? Well, if it was me, I know I'd buy more real estate just because I believe real estate is a great investment. And I've had a terrible luck, I guess, of picking stocks. It just wasn't my thing. Market analysis, current local conditions, you got to figure that out. Timing, and I'm biased. Maybe I'm over biased, but I just think that real estate's really good now. Timing versus long-term strategy. I like Texas. I like where we're at. Local market factors, I think, are good. Cash flow analysts, I know how to do that. And I want you to do it too. Risk assessment, get a team to help you with that. You're going to have to, and we didn't talk about an inspection. Inspections are a big part of this. You've got to have a good inspector.
Definitely.
Professional guidance. Sandi and I'd love to help, and there are others that can help. And then call me and I'll give you all the loan options you can do. How's that? All right. Well, Sandi, again, always good to have you on the show. And
thank you for having me.
Not having you, but for being here with me. It took a long time to get you to come on and do something with me. So I'm thrilled about that. And for those that watch, we'd love for you to subscribe. We'd love for you to comment. We'd like to hear from you on what you'd like to hear about. We've basically done first-time home buying. We did credit. We did how to get out of debt. We're doing this investment thing. I'm not sure what we're going to do next week. I don't know if it's going to be different or we're just going to repeat before. But with that said, again, thank you very much. You see that you can get in touch with us via phone, or obviously I call myself the Kingwood Mortgage Guy, and Mike Durr is with Jane Bird Properties International, and we are out.
Have a good evening, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.